scripture is not good. Okay, I start now. Otherwise, we have too less time. Okay.
Very good. So over to you.
It's okay to start?
Yes, Phil, yes, you're very welcome.
So this picture shows a detail of Michelangelo's painting called The Creation of Adam. It is in the context with the creation of the whole world. It's located on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel in Vatican. At the end, we will metaphorically meet the Adam soul again as Brahma. So, the earthly world of duality is known to us because we live in it. The state of soul consciousness beyond duality in the quantum field is not directly describable with words of the dual world. These are different worlds. One can only set signposts. There is no clear boundary to be drawn between the two worlds, except towards the soul world, where we are clearly in an unconsciously uniform state. Even the wise and saints of former times had conceptual problems to describe this. Jesus allegedly uttered the sentence, "My kingdom is not from this world," referring to the world of non-duality. And Indian Sikhs could not find a suitable word for the consciousness of non-duality. They simply said that, oh, the next, maybe you must bring the next, yes. The state beyond duality is not, so I said this is on the summary. In order to show practically what might be meant by non-duality consciousness, I will tell you an example, an experience. I took the ski lift up a mountain. I spontaneously fell into a deep, almost unconscious state. When I got off at the top, back to normal consciousness, I wondered what it was. There was only one word, namely nothing. Interestingly, despite active skiing, I was in a state of psychic joy-like bliss the whole following afternoon. This was paradoxical. On one hand, the state beyond duality, nothing. And on the other hand, abundance and bliss. Both are not mutually exclusive. The approach to non-duality is also about the attempt to link spirituality and science. With the words silence and science, Baba often spoke about this. With Newton's worldview, a connection between human consciousness and the physical level of creation was excluded. With the discovery of quantum physics, the connection became possible. This led to books such as Mind Over Matter by Dawson Church, which demonstrate how much everything, including consciousness and matter, is interwoven and form a unity. The observer effect of quantum physics, for example, implies that the world is recreated by human consciousness at every moment, but usually with a memory of how it was before. And the second, everything is made up of spirit. Reality is spirit. Matter is a tangible expression. This is from Professor Dürr, Heisenberg's successor as director of the Max Planck Institute in Munich. Planck and Heisenberg were co-founders of quantum physics. And especially Professor Dürr was also cooperating with the Munich Center more times. One time I saw him with Nadi Chanki at the same stage, another time with other scientists and gentlemen. Despite all scientific knowledge, it's generally not clear how creation comes about. According to God's teaching and from a quantum physical point of view, however, this is simple. God himself never intervenes directly into the physical creation. He rather renews the degenerated human consciousness. And the renewed human consciousness in turn renews the physical creation on a quantum physical level. So the human consciousness is therefore the link between the highest consciousness, God, and the physical creation. Conversely, this is easy to realize if one considers the man-made destruction of the environment and the increase of global conflicts and consequences of the degenerated human consciousness. The best example is the crisis of fear called COVID-19. In short, the summary, the state of the world is the expression of human consciousness. The state of the world is the expression of the human consciousness. With increasing cleansing and renewal of the human consciousness, the point of matter, maybe you say in UK, the break-even point, will probably soon be reached, at which then, according to a domino effect, one after the other will also be cleared on the physical levels. The power of silence, the next picture, please. Yes, the power of silence will play an essential role in this process. Firstly, because the silence corresponds to the 0-point field. If I am at deep silence, I am in the 0-point field. And secondly, because it leads to the original starting point of the creation. This first purely spiritual creation process was physically reified by science, and in connection with the new beginning was called the Big Bang of a highly concentrated physical energy point. A few days ago, a German scientist was saying this in the television. In reality, it is a concentrated spiritual energy point, which is, of course, nothing else than the light energy point of God, the seed of the world tree. And this point of in the Bhakti ways, you see the bath in the Ganges is a cleaning process. They believe that the soul is cleansed with this, and similar by the Christianity, the baptism is also similar, reifying. Now to the topic of non-duality, please the next picture. The state of consciousness beyond duality means the formless, eternal space that exists everywhere, which is described in the quantum fields, quantum physics as a field, as a formless level of energy and information. In the picture down below, this eternal, timeless space is I like to call the eternal divine consciousness. From the energy of creation, this is the energy of creation. And so in the line down, the last line, primal energy from which everything comes with the help of the human consciousness. It fits to this saying from Professor Dürr. With the help of human consciousness, everything emerges that is perceived in the physical world of duality, the top of the picture. Now, please, the next picture. Now you see different levels of consciousness. The upper consciousness, green, the subconsciousness, blue, and the divine consciousness, red. So while on the green and blue level, there are differences in life's history, sanskars and injuries between person A and person B, on the red level, all souls are the same. Therefore, the state is also called the state of oneness or all unit. For the time being, I call this state also I am or state of being. Now the question, of course, how to get there? My spiritual path to this day is the Raja Yoga meditation, in which the silence played and still plays a special role. The silence up to nothing, like my lived experience, corresponds to the uniform potential of the field, to the unformed potential of the field. Also Professor Dürr was using this word, unformed potential of the field. The silence also corresponds to the Babsaman stage. In order to reach such deep levels of consciousness, however, I first had to dissolve traumata, deep mental injuries and energy blockages. The BK seniors seem to have found other ways to do this than I have, like deep tapasya, especially under the direct influence of Baptada. So the psychological injuries are stored in the soul, in the subtle body, in the chakras. I spoke last time about in the cells, psychosomatic, and this is also very important in the neurological synapses and control circuits in the brain, in the DNA as beliefs in the subconsciousness. Energy blockages protect the very sensitive injuries. However, the blockages picture below, I read now a little bit fast because you can later read it on the paper if you get from Sister Sarah. They disturb the flow, the blockages disturb the flow. The next picture, please. No, oh, it was going wrong. This, yes. It disturbs the flow of life energy, and therefore by different organs can happen different sicknesses like cancer and so on. And because each chakra has a connection to a very important part of the body, and so if the energy is blocked, also the organs can become sick. So, and also in the DNA. So with the healing method, first we have to, with the healing method of psychosomatic energetics, which I practice myself, German doctors have identified 28 conflict topics in total. With BKs, I have diagnosed 3 to 7 each, to their long incarnation time, in incarnation path. They are very big by BKs. In order to find, of course, 63 birds, in order to find out which trauma is currently active, and unerring their diagnosis with the help of a teaching device and kinesiology is required. First, in addition to the energy field, vital, emotional, mental, and causal, means spiritual, the currently blocked chakra is diagnosed, then the conflict behind it. Once this is diagnosed, its size is determined. The conflicts have certain names. So there is the anger conflict, for example, which is often hidden behind a soft mask. Since the traumas have become negative in the course of time, they are states of original positive golden age qualities. In other words, a reversal has taken place. It's time now to turn them back to the positive. This I could maybe to explain another time. It's a very interesting point how this became negative, the original positive qualities Baba is very often speaking about. And so they became negative, but it would take too long time to explain now, later maybe. The hidden anger could originally have been a special embodiment of power. After the reversal, we find together a suitable solution set, which is then used for the therapy. The solution of conflicts and blockages is then carried out with intensive healing methods, usually with a framework of 2 to 3 sessions. Then the next topic emerges. Particularly noteworthy is the fact, that is also a very important point, that the injuries and blockages are hidden and inaccessible with the consciousness. With psychotherapy, maybe you need 1 year to find one of these points. I can say it after 20 minutes. They are blind spots. Baba very often speak to be under the influence of Maya. My feeling was this is also a part of this. In real life, the active conflicts become noticeable in similar circumstances. The anger jumps up again and again like a red flag, but you can feature out why this happens again. By the way, you can rely on diagnostics because the tested energy does not lie. So the previous steps have been completed, it's easier to find your way into the quantum field or to divine consciousness. For this purpose, the knowledge of different states of brainwaves is helpful. One researcher, there are more researchers I studied. One researcher, he brings it very good into practical, is Dr. Joe Dispenza. And no, the next, the brainwaves, please. Yes, yes, the brainwaves. So you see here, when we speak and hear, we are in the beta wave range. The alpha state is experienced by every person during the transition from the awakening state to the sleeping state, and when waking up. Meditators also experience it, of course. They usually go deeper, namely into the theta state. Some even enter the delta state. A long time ago, I heard Dadi Chanka was very often in this delta state, which corresponds to deep sleep. In the latter 2 states, one has access to the quantum field and thus to the divine energy. As in theta and delta, you have entrance to the quantum field. This temporary awakening is said in spiritual circles, they all speak about awakening. This temporary awakening is said to occur relatively frequently, of course, by very experienced Brahmins. I'm sure that many of them are in these states. Whoever is permanently in this field of consciousness can be called enlightened. And all these together, I can better explain it by the next picture, please. So these steps, that once before, please. These steps, lead us to a better, deeper understanding of who am I. First, then the next picture, please. Yes, maybe you are wondering what I am saying. This picture shows superficially known things, but there is a new interpretation of the question, who am I? You may wonder what this is, what this is all about. We know I am a soul, of course, each Brahmin knows this. However, there is a big difference between calling oneself a soul in the context of the concept and actually being in the consciousness of fulfilled non-dual nothing, like in the skill lift. This deep experience is necessary, mostly behind thoughts. The approach to the target point is now gradually, step by step. In the picture, we see the film projector, a screen on which a film appears with 2 actors. In front of the film sits a detached observer, who is also the left actor on the screen, maybe as a young boy. The new interpretation Who I am is temporary, please. I am the empty screen. It represents the perceptive consciousness. When the film ends, I continue to exist as the white screen, as pure perceiving consciousness. This means that I am a screen in the eternal divine consciousness and completely detached from the drama. No matter what happens on the screen. This also explains the equality, uniqueness, and all unity of all souls, because the empty white canvas remains the empty white canvas regardless of which images and how many images are stored in the soul and are projected to the screen. But the canvas metaphor was not complete enough. Later I realized I am the eternally existing light in the projector. It exposes the stored images and projects them onto the canvas. Now the next step. When screen, light, and film are together in one device, like in a TV screen, it becomes clearer. The projector now corresponds to the head. I, the light, the soul, sit in the head, and at the same time, the head contains the brain. In our example, the brain corresponds to the screen, but with the difference that the canvas remains innocent, pure, while the synaptic control circuits of the brain, the cells, etc., depict the mental injuries. In order to make the image projected from the non-dual world of the soul is in a non-dual world, visible in the dual world, we now need the brain instead of the canvas, which reconstructs the images. This reconstructs the images. There exists a special science, a branch of science calls this process constructivism. Maybe 15 years ago, I liked to make the doctor, but I finished then because it would take too much time. And this constructivism this knowledge is very close. It was very interesting to Baba's knowledge. The light with the film, it belongs to the non-dual world, and the brain belongs to the dual world of forms. Both the light soul on the one hand, and the brain on the other hand, are therefore bridgeheads. I hope you understand this word, bridgeheads, between the beyond and this world. From all these 12 solution steps result for the time being. Of course, my learning process is continues, but in the moment I have found 12 solution sentences. The next picture, please. There's first the summary. Result of the picture: the light soul is beyond duality, and the brain is this side of duality. The brain reconstructs the images exposed by the soul and makes them perceptible in this world. And this is a metaphor for the creation process. Next picture, please. Yes, now the 12 solution sentences. First, silence is the basis. Of course, by all points, Baba's remembrance is anyway permanently important. Silence is the basis. She corresponds to the quantum field. Second, when thoughts emerge, I give them space. Third, I am not my thoughts. It's for me a very important point. I'm not my thoughts. 4, I observe my thoughts. 5, by observing my thoughts and all other things from the world of forms, I detach myself from them all because as an observator, this is the important point, because as an observator, I am not more identified with them. 6, solution of trauma, blockages, the foundation for lying for new synaptic circuits, new DNA, and new beliefs in the subconsciousness. Maybe to this point, I have to tell a little bit more. 7, my consciousness can return to silence, to non-duality. This leads to detachment from personal history, which makes me free. To be detached from personal history, which makes me free, because I am not my history. 9, with this I create my over-conceptual soul consciousness. 10, Baba's remembrance leads to further spiritual cleansing, but anyway, Baba is always connected. 11, this enables soul-touching service. In this very state, I experienced deep eye-wet soul touches because I was in the red level of oneness. And one time, a small story, I was on the way through Tuscany in Italy, and in the last city called Arezzo, I was going without navy at this time into the city, and then I said to myself, the first person I will ask to the center, the way to the center, it was old lady, and distinguished old lady for directions to the center. And then she was speaking very quickly. I know only a few words Italian. And by words, I did nothing understand, but I understood the soul very, very deep. I had never the thought I give her drishti. It was coming automatically. We were looking both into our eyes, and suddenly I was anyway the whole time in silence, and suddenly she also became silent, and then maybe a very long time in the feeling, maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds, we were only looking into our eyes, and then we became tears of love, tears of happiness. I'm sure this lady never forgot this experience, and so this was a sign for me to make service in the future. Maybe in the last time of revelation, Baba will gift his energy through us as instruments to many souls. In a vision, I saw crowds of people, thousands of people in front of me, and so they only get the experience who they are in reality, maybe in a short second, in a glimpse, but they never will forget this. And this is for me very interesting, a very interesting point. So, and then with all this, I make my contribution to the creation of the new world. So then to the next point, the next steps are supplements, such as the promotion of the heart level, because it is the heart is underweight compared to the brain, especially in the West. Also, last time I spoke a little bit about this. Researchers have found out through scans, please the next picture. The next picture, yes. The researchers have found out that the radiation about the heart is 1,000 times stronger than of the brain. But at least we have to find the balance between both of them. And the most important thing is the synchronization of heart and brain. Researchers found out this, especially this Joe Dispenza, he was showing with different pictures and different other pictures. I experienced him 2 years ago in Stuttgart. And it was very interesting to see how important the brain is, and also the synchronization of heart and brain. This synchronization in connection with beta and delta brain waves and connected with Baba and the quantum field leads to supernatural events, e.g. to great healing success as if from to nothing. And by the other picture with the brain waves, the lower waves, the gamma waves are also special. This I experienced in '82 in my birth time. And there, this was also connected with this synchronization of heart and brain. At this time, I didn't understand it, but now by studying in the last years, I understood, first of all, by Dr. Dispenza, what happened with myself, because it was really extraordinary. I made extraordinary experiences, but it's also a question for another time. Another prerequisite for success, for personally success in creation, is the spiritual, emotional anticipation of the completed reality, combined with the feeling of gratitude. The completely reality, as long as you are in the desire, I like to get, you are in the feeling you create deficit. You must feel the reality, the completed reality. So please, the next picture. On the way from the brain to the heart, the development of intuition was important for me. It requires inner space. Everything is allowed to be there, even negative things, because the space there is room to turn into the positive. The space corresponds to a resonance space, like a cello. If you have strings on a stick, but no space, you can't hear the sound. You need a resonance space. Without a resonance room, you cannot hear anything. In the resonance space, I can more easily hear Baba's voice and also my own inner voice. Of course, as long Baba is available, we have to listen first of all to Baba's voice, but later in the golden age, Shiv Baba is not available. This is why it is now important to learn this, to open the inner space, to give the inner space and intuition that you can hear the voice, our inner voice. This opens an access to deep feelings. Trusting them and acting on them is connected with risk, because in the beginning of the learning process, I can be wrong in my spontaneous intuition. I accepted this in the knowledge that the intuitive decisions, according to the principle of small steps, work then better and better. That is how it was with me, although I can still be wrong spontaneously today. But I am in a learning process. And it's a good preparation for the golden age consciousness. But everything can be corrected. This means that important learning processes are also positive with attentive observation. In my first lecture in Cambridge, I spoke about my practical experiences, and there the attentive observation was most important. To see what's functioning and to see what's not going on. And this, I can correct it all steps, and every day, many times I had a chance to look what's going on. After all, intuition for me is the divine intellect. In the golden age, we will not analyze and discuss. Of course, now we need the intellect to understand the knowledge. This is clear. But to prepare the golden age consciousness for this intuition is, I feel, is very important. In the golden age, everything is simply there and fits as if by magic. Then please, the next picture. The solution, the soul conscious intuition, is followed almost automatically by the synchronization of the circumstances of life. Everything fits together perfectly. Together with the opening of the outside occurs together with this opening of the outside occurs, it leads to authentic encounters. The radiation invites other people to my pure open energy field, like this old lady in Tuscany, under a resonance principle. there was surreal in this meeting, but I've experienced very often. But this old lady, I never will forget, was really the first time I realized what's going on. One meets, feels the attraction and enters into contact with the prejudice, without prejudice. I cannot say it correct. Soul touches happen and friendships develop. Baba always says we should make the souls to our friends, and then service is much more easier. So once the conditions described so far have largely been met, we will enter the flow. Flow has become a fashionable word. It's often used when things work well. This is not wrong in itself, but the real flow goes deeper. In my experience, it shows the following results. When it's easy, but I spoke about this, I think, in the first lecture, no matter what I do, when it's fun, and when it's optimally efficient with a minimum of effort. The crown is put on by the words, it happens by itself. This happens by itself has a double meaning, in the sense of, in German it's better to explain, in the sense of it happens easily, and B, it comes from the inner pure self, from itself, inner pure self. The pure inner self knows no error. Therefore, in the golden age, we don't make errors. So please, the next picture. So when we were children, we used to bath in the river. We had no basin, no swimming pool. When we were older, we lay down on air mattress and tried to steer in the river, which was very exhausting due to strong current. Then we made an interesting discovery. When we let go and just let ourselves drift, the air mattress automatically searched for the optimum of the current with us on top. Now we let ourselves drift in the flow, relaxed and detached. The water did not fight with obstacles, but flowed flexibly around them, like this stone in front of the air mattress. This experience fits perfectly with the relaxed and trusting observation of the drama film. The drama brings us to our destination as surely as the river brings us to the ocean, means also to the soul world. After that, the so-called enlightenment can appear. It cannot be forced by effort. It's my experience. It has more to do with letting go, commitment, and grace. In the past, it was only attributed to few saints like Jesus and Buddha. Due to the present time of reconnection with God, however, it's likely to occur more often today, of course, in the family. For me, it is an absolutely free soul consciousness state. I am not, of course, permanently in this state, I said it before, but sometimes I experience this totally, absolutely free soul conscious state. It includes, among other things, an altruistic, all-compassion love, compassion and all oneness with all that is also outside and inside are unity, beyond wishes, beyond suffering, etc. It is characterized by detached attention, also called witness awareness. This unity of inside and outside, I also experienced sometimes very clear as I made my last journey with a camper from Italy coming. I asked myself, must this be? No, suddenly come the answer. It seemed to be from another level of consciousness. It must not be. I always meet myself. I said to me, I always meet myself. At this time, I didn't understand this, but now I understand what is meant by this saying. So we come to the last point. After all, it is about the synchronization of all those who want to belong to the orchestra of the new world. Each soul plays its own instrument. All souls are equipped with different capacities. Yes, thank you. The enlightenment, I forgot. And yet they come together and to form a harmonious unity by means of the swarm intelligence. If you have ever observed how all the birds in a swarm of birds change directions absolutely simultaneously, then you know what is meant by swarm intelligence. In the Golden Age, no soul says, I am the first, everyone has to follow me, because of the united field, which is especially created by the most powerful souls, first of all, the 8 maybe, or 108, all are synchronized with each other as if by magic. No soul plays wrong, everything fits. Now it's coming, but before that core and orchestra must be retuned. The members call for the conductor because they have played without him for a very, very long time. And in the end, they are quite out of tune and in big chaotic disharmony. Finally, the conductor appears, uses the first violin as an instrument, and gives the concert pitch A as in Atma, in German A as in Atma. Slowly but gradually, and then this means, of course, soul consciousness. The pitch A as in Atma means soul consciousness. Slowly but gradually, they all tune in harmoniously, up to much harmony. I cannot translate it perfect in English, I don't know. In German, Philharmonie, much harmony. But it's a different thing, the orchestra of Philharmonie and harmony, but it sounds similar. The 9th Symphony, 1 + 8, it's the European harmony, but not anymore for UK. The 9th Symphony is 1 + 8, immediately reveals itself perfectly under Baba's conducting. Joy of beautiful sparks of deities, all men become brothers in German, Freude, schöne Götterfunken, and so on. All human beings becomes brothers. Hallelujah. So the next picture, the end now. Dear sisters and brothers, thank you very much for your attention and for the chance to speak to you. Om Shanti. And now the last one, please. That's our symbol for the soul, for the highest soul, for Baba, and so on. Thank you very much.
Shanti, so, thank you so much, Brother Hans.
We are in time, I didn't look.
Yeah, it did exactly 45 minutes from when we started. So
it was very fast. It was very fast. But the people can read the text if they like.
Yes, so if you're happy, we can forward the presentation. I think some would be very interested. And would anyone like to ask a question? I know maybe we have 5 minutes. Would that be okay, Hans?
Yes, maybe if I can, because my English is for this complicated topic, maybe not enough, no? But you can, yeah. People can write me, the souls can write me.
That's right, maybe we can do that. Maybe one question that's come up from Carol, and then Philip's raised his hand, so we can go for those two. What systems do you use to identify problems in 20 minutes? You mentioned at the beginning, near the beginning of your presentation.
To diagnose the conflicts. Did I understand right?
Yes, the diagnosis you talked about.
Yes, this is a very special, very special tool taught by Dr. Bramis and a group of doctors, and I learned this by them many years ago, maybe 25 years ago. And it's very effective to diagnose it. because the subtle body, included the chakras, have all these stored these conflicts, these traumata. And so by diagnosis, the energy fields, especially the chakra, and behind the chakra to find out the original conflict is in a very short time possible, yes, in 20 minutes. But Brahmins have, of course, more than one of these conflicts. In 63 birds, you know, it's clear. And so if one is solved, then the next one is coming up. They are standing like on a row behind. No? They are not all coming together because it would be too much. It would be too much. But most of the people, I have tested many Brahmins, most of the people know, then understand very clearly if I explain them, and if I change the negative into the positive, then they can work also in her practical life during the day. And if this happens, it can really change also by the brain circuits, because these brain circuits are, if you meditate, maybe it's okay. But if the brain circuits, the synaptic connections of the brain doesn't change, then there is no result, because these also have to happen. But first, to solve the subtle energy, also the cells, and what is also very important, the DNA. 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, we had the teaching that the DNA is stable up to the end of the life. Since Bruce Lipton, he was a very important researcher at the Princeton University in America, he found out that the DNA changed by the environment. If you have other beliefs, other thoughts and so on, and other consciousness, also the DNA is changing. And so on this chapter, I have forgot to explain a little bit more, because this is very important. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Philip has his hand raised, and I'm just going to see if you'd like to come into sound. And
yes, thank you, Sarah. Brother Hans, thank you so much for all you've shared. And I look forward to actually receiving the script so I can begin to understand more deeply and clearly your thoughts. My question is quite straightforward. Is what you've shared an overview of current thinking in the scientific world, or is it something that you've gone into deeply and also used Brahmin knowledge and Brahmin wisdom? Is it a combination of both, or is it just an extrapolation of what quantum physicists currently think the situation is?
I don't know if I understood properly, but the combination of science, like the brainwaves and so on, and the cells and the synaptic circuits in the brain, the synapses, I didn't hear it in the Murlis, of course. Baba is not speaking about the met directly, about these points. But by solving the blockages and endurance by BKs, I realized very clearly that this is a very important thing. After a few years, as I tested again in the German family meeting, I asked, sometimes I have a very clear line to Baba. I asked Baba, what's going on? There are Brahmins 20, 30 years in Gyan and they are not happy. What's the reason? And then they have traumata inside them. They couldn't solve by meditation. Yes, sometimes I got the answer, it's possible that meditation is not enough, then you must find out a solution to solve also these brain circuits, this changing the DNA, and also changing, this time I didn't know about DNA, this I experienced later, but so this help would be very important. And in last weeks, 2 times, I heard one time from Jedi Benz, is now also thinking about this. to solve the traumas, and Denise too. It's coming, seems to be, it's coming up in the Brahmin family by the teachers that this is necessary to help. And so from myself, from my own, and all my knowledge is based on my own experiences. I'm not speaking theoretical things. All what I told you, it's my own experience. Of course, these pictures were made by these experiences. And so for me, it's clear that we have to solve also, to bring it into the practical life, we have to solve also this endures these traumas in the soul. Some maybe they are solved from meditation. It's okay. Then the old seniors, but had also sicknesses, you know, cancer and so on. And maybe for myself, most of the sicknesses in the body are psychosomatic. Of course, to say only it's a karmic account, it's true, but additional to try to solve it, it's better for myself. And so I tried it, and last time I told about I self had the best experience. Then after solving my main traumata, it was much more better. It became an easier way, much more than before. I don't know, that for me it's much more easier to give answers if you write me. The email address is in the text down below in the last page. Then I can use the translation tools of maybe DeepL or something else. Then it's easy for me to give an answer.
Yes, really appreciate your responses to those questions. Live, because I fully understand it's a very deep, subtle subject and in another language. So I think you answered very clearly, but of course you may want to reflect and get exactly the right words. So we can make the recording available in our guest Gyan discussion link. So we'll post that to the Communication Circle Skype group and send you also a link, Hans. And then if there's any Q&A, we can also make a document with the written responses.
Yeah,
sorry,
you can collect the questions and then I can give the
Exactly.
answer. Is this possible for you?
Yes, we can do that. Yes, no problem. Yeah, we can
because
arrange.
one by one, maybe it's
Sure,
you collect
that's right.
the questions and you accept it and then send it to me. Then I can give answer as soon as I can. And I'm not perfectly, you know. I'm on the way.
Very nice. I really appreciate your time, and your care really comes through in this subject, and the deep wish to heal the soul and to help others heal. So it's very beautiful. So yeah, we collectively, maybe we can, I'll just stop the recording here and give everyone